Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited. I'd like to thank all of you for joining this call, particularly those of you that are calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next, say, 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through these calls. We know that you're busy, and we want to bottom line the information for you. So we have a general format. We spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies, a few minutes talking about the program we've put into place to assist you, and then we go to a Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started for this afternoon, and first talk a little bit about what's going on in Iraq. By way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of these pre-valued currencies. We're not advocating the purchase or sale of these currencies, but as substantial currency holders ourselves, we're merely sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. The first order of business is to discuss the viable window for the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we believe is the base currency for these other currencies. In order for the Iraqi dinar to revalue globally, it must first reinstitute in country, and we are of the belief that there will be a reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the first quarter of this year. And to that end, let's talk a little bit about what's actually going on in country. First, there are some rather important parliamentary votes that will be taking place next week. The first will be votes for the remaining unfilled ministerial seats in Prime Minister Mahdi's cabinet. There are still 3 seats that are as yet unconfirmed. I cannot say with any assurance that that will be resolved next week. However, I am of the belief that 2 things will happen. If all of the seats are not filled, and the seat that seems to be most contentious is the Minister of Interior, because this individual will be involved in the distribution of funds pursuant to the 2019 budget. Because all of the other boxes have been checked, either the failure to confirm a minister for that seat will not in and of itself stop the reinstitution of the currency, the Iraqi dinar in country, or if that seat turns out to be critical for the reinstitution, if necessary, I think that Prime Minister Mahdi will simply select someone that can be confirmed by the Parliament. The second important vote will be the vote on the 2019 budget. The language and terms, in terms of the legislation of the 2019 budget, has been agreed upon, so all that remains is the final vote for that budget. The third thing on the agenda is the parliamentary vote on the reduction and eventual elimination of long-term loans from the IMF. Now, this is an intelligent move on their parts, too. The globalists in the IMF and these other international organizations use these long-term loans as control mechanisms. As a matter of fact, you don't have to go any further than what's going on in Britain right now with Brexit, and what these bureaucrats in Brussels are trying to do to force Britain to stay within the European Union. So the Parliament has wisely going to consider eliminating these long-term loans. Now, if there's any doubt in your mind about what the globalists intend, I would suggest that you Google the following: Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050, and Agenda 21. If you Google those 3 issues, you will see what the IMF, what the UN, what the World Bank, and what these other global organizations have in mind. And if, like myself, you have a family, you have children, and you have grandchildren, I can assure you this will appall you, what these people are up to. But the Parliament seems to have read the tea leaves and is going to try to wean themselves away from the financial dependence on the IMF. Another important thing that did occur was the efforts of the United States and Europe to isolate Iran and to establish long-term economic relations with Iraq. To this end, there was a recent visit of Secretary of State Pompeo to Iraq, and he has urged the country to purchase their natural gas from the United States and to no longer purchase it from Iran, trying to separate Iran and their bad influence from Iraq. Now, part of the problem is the vast majority of Iraqis happen to be Shia, but they are not radical 12th Imamers like the Iranian Shia. They are more moderate Shia, so hopefully they can eliminate the sectarian issue and operate on a nation-state basis and purchase the natural gas from the United States and from other Western nations. Now, the most important development, in my view, is the CBI has announced that they will initiate a 1 trillion dinar program to assist small and medium-sized projects within the country. Now, this is part of the umbrella of the transition from a centralized government to a more decentralized free market economy. But the important issue here is this. If over the course of 2019, the CBI, in fact, and I guess the term for it would be qualitative easing, will be releasing dinar to the general public for these small and medium projects, are they going to be releasing the old 3-0 provisional currency, or are they going to be releasing their new currency, absent the 3 zeros? Obviously, they're going to be releasing the lower currency, the new currency, without the 3 zeros. So that means one of two things. It either means that they're going to reinstitute the currency in order for that new currency to be viable, or the release of 1 trillion of the new Iraqi dinar in and of itself would be the reinstitution of their currency. So this is all very good news, and this is why we believe there's a distinct possibility and even a probability that there will be a reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the first quarter of 2019. Now, for those of us that have gotten their affairs in order and understand what that entails, this is good news. For those of you that may have not gotten their affairs in order prior to this reinstitution and revaluation, or who may not understand what that entails, Trusts Unlimited has put into place a turnkey program to assist you. But time may be running out. Now, we've been doing these calls for nearly 10 years. And in that time, you have never heard me say that time is running out. But we've come to the point where that's the case. So if you want to get your affairs in order, and if you want to understand clearly what that entails, I suggest you listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Again, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It is a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Phase 1 involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your pre-valued currencies on paper to that trust product. Phase 2 involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trust and the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. Trust can fall into some basic categories. For example, a trust can be revocable or it can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you're going to need and want, you're going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies for the following reasons. First, by establishing this trust package and assigning your currencies on paper to that trust package, you will be able to preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within an irrevocable trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this pre-RV trust package, you will avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely be spitting out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit is time-consuming. Such an audit would be frustrating. And frankly, such an audit would probably cost you more than an asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your trust package is in place and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package prior to the revaluation, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, if the taxable event occurs within the trust, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is if you plan on gifting currency to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to their revaluation. Now, if you're gifting currencies to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you've negotiated the exchange, that can be done outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But in a situation where you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the lump sum, we have created within our trust package a special gift subtrust. By gifting through this gift subtrust, you will avoid the 40% federal gift tax. The language of this gift subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning that you will be able to gift the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting through the trust, not only will these gifted currencies be protected along with yours, but you will then be able to invest, manage, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now this estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax which the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to your heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this is an unacceptable and avoidable scenario. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you transfer those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's use the previous example from above. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to our trust package. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. Second, and most importantly, once a prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the currencies at the time you transferred them to the trust, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you against future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, and this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar, transfer the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you exercise this legal strategy of segregation of assets by placing each of them in a separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Now, how does this protect you from a legal standpoint? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Now, why are those assets protected? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue those separate entities. So your trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and your barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your trust package and assign your currencies on paper to that trust package prior to their revaluation. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. I will just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the global revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited, including myself, to assist you with the management and funding of your sub-trusts post-RV. In addition, many of our clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts after the revaluation. And the proper way to fund those entities is to transfer funds directly from your asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. In addition, we will have our tax specialists there to assist you with all of the tax matters that would necessarily be involved. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxation of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We will also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. It's going to be critical for you to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds within the accounts at those banks. So for obvious reasons, you're going to get money out of the banks and working in other markets. Third, the general global shift from fiat-based to commodity-based Basel III compliant currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want to get a substantial amount of your holdings into tangible assets to avoid that volatility. Now, our trust package consists initially of 10 trusts, one master trust that will hold your pre-RV currencies in assignment form pre-RV, and then hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV. One optional gift sub-trust, which can be converted to a standard sub-trust at any time, and 8 additional sub-trusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to work with Denarians some years ago, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for too many. So by restructuring the package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket cost just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be made in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is, understandably, once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for establishing their trust package pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be less than the $100 a month you'd be paying us under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place for all of the reasons that we've discussed here this afternoon. Now, I will be going to the Q&A in just a moment, but for the benefit of our newer callers, again, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this call, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved with the reinstitution of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. It's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV, as we understand them. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A in a second. If the things we've said are of interest to you, I strongly suggest that you get our initial package. It has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about these currencies. You're under absolutely no obligation whatsoever for getting the package, even though it includes everything you need if you should decide to proceed with establishing a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts. But you can review the information, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer those questions, and there will be no consultation fee. Again, we're doing everything we can to help you make an informed decision prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons that I've stated. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. Existing clients can contact us by phone or email. And second, for obvious reasons, in order to participate in the Q&A, your name and number must be on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and open that Q&A now. I'm going to give you our contact information while I'm waiting for any potential questions. You can go to our website, which is trustsunlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trustsunlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last two digits. Rather than dialing 40, you'll dial 39 and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-pound. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out periodically, pre-RV, but after the revaluation of the dinar and hopefully these other currencies, emails may go out as often as daily. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Q&A. Our first question is from area code 312. That's 312. Go ahead. 312? Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, how are you? Good.
Okay. What's up, my friend?
All right. I heard someone speaking of a meeting that's taking place right now called SERB or SAB or DAV, and it had something to do with the world economy. Do you know anything about this meeting that is RV related, I believe?
No, I don't.
It's supposed to end on Friday. I wished I knew the acronyms that the guy said it was. I don't remember the acronym.
Now, I do know this. There are meetings taking place globally, but the meetings that I'm aware of have to do with basically the global recession. Europe is in trouble, and believe it or not, even China is in trouble. As a matter of fact, China is in so much trouble. Not only are they open to continued negotiations about free and fair trade with the United States, but Trump has just secured a large contract for the delivery, believe it or not, of rice to China. So it's possible that these talks also have to do with this global recession, because a lot of the countries that hold these currencies want to see them revalued, because that will assist them. So I'll try to investigate that after this call. I'm not aware specifically. What is it?
I think it's DAV. DAV.
Okay.
David. Apple.
Well, it could be in Davos. It could be in Davos. I will investigate that after the call. But as I said, there are meetings taking place. There's a lot going on. We have the issue between the bureaucrats in Brussels, and then the what's going on in the Parliament in England with regard to the Brexit. Then we have, like I said, we have these trade issues. We have Trump butting heads with NATO. So there's a whole lot going on globally, and what's going on in Iraq is significant merely because, as I've said before, in my opinion, Iraq per square mile is the richest country in the world. A lot of money has been spent since 2003, and these people that have, quote-unquote, invested in Iraq not only want a return on their investment, but frankly, they want to try to seek some sort of a global control through these long-term loans and these other issues. So, but I will check this out, and if there's anything of real significance, we'll probably get something out in email form this week.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Say hi to the professor.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Well, Les is our first, last, and only caller for this afternoon. That's a little unusual, but that's fine. I just want to reiterate one thing. In my view, the CBI's announcement of this 1 trillion dinar initiative is a qualitative easing step, and in my view, signals very strongly that the CBI intends on the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in country, and that is that's the trigger point for what's to happen with the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar and these other currencies globally. So those of you, once again, that have not as yet gotten your affairs in order and do not have your trust in place, I hope you will contact us. We'll be happy to send you our initial package. You can contact us if you have any questions. You're under no obligation to receive the package, and there will be no consultation fee to assist you. Our next call is, of course, scheduled for next Wednesday, noon Pacific. It looks like Les came back in on the call here. Let me see if I can catch him. No, it looks like I've lost him there. Our next call is scheduled for Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get an emergency email out and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we plan to be back next week, and there are a lot of things that should be going on in country in Iraq next week. So have a great week, everyone. Talk to you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.